Greetings, rise and shine, brethren. We are the World Global Reset Restoration Network family, comprised of 198 sovereign nations with over 7 billion sovereign principles, being of one mind, one heart, and one spirit, walking together under the divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I come to you as a voice in the wilderness to introduce to you a man. No, not just any man, but a man sent by Yah Allah to redeem mankind. Dr. Hindu I.L. Henderson, the Adak Chief Justice of the Universal World Court, and who's also known as Yehoshua Mashiach, the Son of Man. The information that you will be receiving in this and other videos you won't get from anywhere else on the planet. Hear the many truths and fulfillment of the laws, judgments, and sentencings from our Creator, Father Yah, as well as the fulfillment of the true interpretation of the Holy Scriptures and books. Now, without further ado, Dr. Hindu I.L. Henderson with his beloved host, Shelley Bowling.
And having one come from nowhere, or one would say out of nowhere, classifying yourself to be the nation, or one nation under God, classifying yourself to be the most powerful nation, classifying yourself to be the most smartest nation, the intelligent nation, the most powerful nation, the superpowered nation. And at the same time, everyone on the planet has done he and she's research where now they're still looking at the fact that there's no true documentation that can be found on that one particular area where it was ever given any authority, ever giving any right to even be classified as a nation. Stand still and know that He is Yah. I'm talking to you, the nation which has classified yourself to be the nation, one nation under God. The nation that has classified yourself to be some nation whereby you would have totally invented yourself out of thin air. As you begin to accuse others of such things such as paper terrorists, knowing that you are the greatest terrorist when it comes down to paper on the planet. So you even have written documents you classified you wrote that was nothing more than simple plagiarism, where you have stolen those documents in which now you classify as your Declaration of Independence. You've stolen the documents and whereby now you classify them to be your Constitution. Yes, and just the other day, a great spectrum that you put on by way of television now due to the fact that many of them cannot meet or will not meet in person anymore due to the pandemic in which they're going through. So now they're themselves are talking in terms of constitution and constitutional when they cannot truly come up with a document where anybody has given them any constitution or any confirmation on anything that they have brought to the world as some so-called would-be truth. And now at right, they are still subjects of nothing more than the British Crown. They are still nothing more than those that would be classified as citizens under a union of nothing more than United Colonies. More than any other nation on the planet, the U.S. of A. is one of the nations that is still in total denial. And based upon that, it still rejects the truth when it's even staring them in the face based upon true documentation. And even when it's a moment where they can reflect upon seeing it in the physical form, they still reject it. And thereby we have to go forward with a system now where it's been set up by the entire nation to bring one would-be ID, one nation that's connected to nothing more than colonialism that comes out of a nation that was known as Great Britain or Britain. Most of the time, everybody on the planet, US of A, you to include, as I say, will not make it this call exclusive to you. But you have to recognize the fact that right now, with all the nations listening, they already recognize that America is the least informed nation on the planet, and it is the greatest nation of what we all can see as a nation of denial. It's a nation that does not want to admit to the fact that it is not a nation based upon some European or some Caucasian white world. That it is a world that has long been hidden because it has been in the process of being stolen from the true people of the land and from the true people of that nation. It is still an area whereby it is still under construction and reconstruction of trying to put itself back together or trying to build itself as being something that it never was and never will be. And whereby we have to caution ourselves to be very careful about the wording that we use when referring to it as being some so-called super nation or some super powerful nation, knowing that it truly still is not a nation in regards to any treaty, any would-be deed, or any would-be patent anywhere on the planet that does not exist in the form of true documentation. And notice I said true documentation, because as the U.S. of A. resorts to some would-be method of trying to classify all other systems and all other organizations and all other would-be nations and planets, they always resorting to everyone as being some so-called paper terrorist. And quite naturally, you would be able to accuse one of something that you're guilty of. And whereby the U.S. of A. is guilty of nothing more than treason, being a traitor to everything on the planet. It is nothing more than one that can be classified as a terrorist, would-be paper terrorist nation that has placed everything on some paperwork that they have themselves, but no one else has ever been able to receive that paperwork whereby it would have been truly certified as being real, and whereby it has been deemed a terroristic nation. And even though now it's claiming everyone else to be a terrorist and sanctioning everyone all over the planet, it really truly has no authority to do such. So America would have had to at some point in time classify itself a monarch before it could have changed into what it deems itself to be now, some anarch. And to become an anarch, it would have had to at least at some point in time deemed itself to be of a free world where sovereignty would have been its present, would have been preparing for what they're going through and going forward to deem themselves to be of now. And whereby that never took place. So they don't truly exist. I understand that as the United States as a nation if it might deem itself still to be as such, will still be a nation whereby it will be drawing itself out of every would-be so-called treaty, knowing that these treaties were nothing more than the treaties of peace and friendship. Knowing that these treaties were not just trade treaties, but they were treaties where one, in order to trade, he had to at least be in agreement with the nation that he would have been trading with, or against, or for. To be able to be in that type of would-be setting, he would at least been able to have to be a nation that would have been in agreement to peace. He would have had to be in agreement to friendship. And yes, he would have had to believe that every nation was able and in order that they might be able to worship under their own vine and fig tree. But knowing that this has never been an agreement that the American nation has ever entered in upon, based upon the fact that it has never truly signed any agreement with any nation and with any people, whereby to find documentation where the United States would have found itself signing of any wood agreement with any nation or any people. It would be hard, and we would say far-fetched, if one could ever find any type of would-be agreement, because it does not exist. And even though the many would-be so-called administrations that America has gone through, at least now we would say it has gone through 45 administrations, 45 of them, and none of them can truly say that they had any would-be signed agreement. And the saddest thing is that their leaders are still being classified as heroes. Their leaders are still classified as being some of the greatest would-be leaders of all time. Some of their leaders are being given the title that they loved their people and they took care of their country, and they was those in whom looked out for the welfare of their would-be nation. When none of them can truly come forth and honestly tell the people that there was never agreement, there was never a treaty with no nation that was known as the United States of America. And whereby the treaties of the past in which that particular area would have had would have all been treaties that were done by men that would have been classified as the true people of the land. And those people were known as black people. They were known as the melanated people. They were known as the true Hebrew Israelites of the universe. And whereby now, it is a sad gesture for one to say that they have a treaty with anyone on the planet, knowing that the United States of America still does not truly recognize treaties. No, they don't recognize patents. No, and they surely cannot recognize those things they classify as deeds, because these things are not in existence unless they had signed them with the people of the land in whom they so now find themselves being nothing more than still guests. The GUESS type guests, where they themselves can never be a GUEST. A GUEST are those who come, they visit, and they leave, never to come back again. But those that are deemed to be GUESS are those that are still in the U.S. of A, as we so always ask our guests to be, those in whom will keep you guessing if they should ever leave. And we can assure ourselves that the U.S. of A has become just that type of guest in the area in which they live in. No offense to that, but the whole would-be concern is that as they have been there as guests, they have been nothing more than criminal guests. And these criminal guests are those who have done nothing more than levy crimes upon the difference of the people who have now found themselves as immigrants, and which were once nothing more than migrants, in a land whereby they were given at least a free ability to be able to live there under the five divine principles of the universe of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Yes, they were given those things, and all they had to do was sign the treaty, and which was known as the treaties of peace and friendship. And to this day, there is still no true document of proof. For even those that deem themselves to be presidents and secretary of states and vice presidents during that time, their names are still on the documents, but there's no true signature on the document. And those that are now, where you find their signatures of the past, having matched them with the documents in which is classified to be the so-called would-be treaties, patents, their names now that has been found to be a forgery, rather than the true signature of the one in whom they said was his identity to be the individual known as a would-be George Washington, known as a would-be John Adams, known as a would-be Franklin Delano Roosevelt. All of their signatures are nothing more now than forgery. But as one checked the documents and checked their letters in which they wrote to their lovers during the time of courtship, they find that those signatures does not match the signatures that are now on the document that someone inside of their leadership would have known that they were a forgery, rather than the true signatures of the men in whom was to sign them. Thereby it tells you that this is a nation that has been found to be a nation that has manipulated the whole universe up to this point. And those nations who have now heard the truth have done their research. They have also found this information to be very much useful in a time now where everyone must be held accountable, and it must be done transparent, and it has to come to the Universal World Court, in which every criminal that is a true criminal of activity of criminality will always say that he does not recognize the court of law, he does not recognize the law, he does not recognize those who have written the law. He will only say that because he is the criminal, and thereby, as the U.S. of A. now has already been given the title to be a criminal, and they begin to still speak out to say that they do not recognize the World Court, they do not recognize the United Nations, they do not recognize the would-be treaties or the NAFTA treaties or no other type of treaties, the treaties of peace, the treaties of friendship. They still say that they do not recognize it because criminal activity and criminology of those in whom are nothing more than born criminals will never recognize the law.
People of this land, specifically those that call themselves U.S. citizens, your lives are getting ready to change dramatically. I know many of you are saying more dramatic than the last couple of months. Yes, more dramatically than the last couple of months. You've got your so-called leaders of a defunct corporation sitting in seats that do not exist in Washington, D.C., fighting amongst one another. They're fighting, throwing out the name or the title or the phrase, rule of law. You've got those of the unrighteous calling out the rule of law, defending it as if they were the authors of it. Well, their idea of the rule of law, yes, they truly are the authors of that. For it is a rule without laws. It is an iron fist of control without laws that can be changed at any whim for their protection only and not the protection of the people of this land. Then you have those on the side of the righteous bringing forth the rule of law that has been given us by our Creator, Father Allah, that has now been established by His Son, Yahushua Mashiach, bringing back our ecclesiastical law, common law, and international law. So now you see this fight going on, while all on the sidelines, relegated to the small corners of the land or the true people of this land. The true indigenous that have been left out of the corporate system only to be called on from time to time by the U.S. corporation as if they truly care about our brothers and sisters that this land truly belongs to. I can tell you right now, people of America, that Father Yah Allah has not forgotten his true children of this land. You hear Yehoshua Mashiach, Dr. Henderson, speaking about the 6 original tribes of this land. They and their descendants are still here. They have great wisdom and they have great support. And the truth that they're bringing to this land, restoring mankind back to the land, is great. The U.S. corporation has no treaty. 198 nations have treaties. Treaties are the highest law of the land. Then you have land patents, and then you have deeds. The treaty for this land does not belong to the U.S. corporation, but it belongs to the tribal nations of this land. United States of America, if you still want to call yourself that. Those of you sitting in Washington, D.C., you know these truths. And now these truths are being spoken to the people of this area. Your nation, if you still want to call it a nation, we should call it the land, because the land will remain forever, and its people will remain forever. This land is changing. This land is going forward, heeding the voice of our Creator, Father Yah, and His Son, Yehoshua Mashiach. As restoration, redemption, and protection is being brought back to not only this land, but our entire planet, to all 198 nations. The righteous are ready to go. The righteous are heeding the voice of Father Yah Allah and His Son. For those two have become one. Therefore, what the Father knows and says, so does the Son. We're going forward to a very bright future, family. A future of perfection, not only of the things of the earth, the things of mankind, of animal kind, and the true restoration of the Spirit. We are one family. Out of 12 tribes of Israel, mankind is going forth to reclaim and to restore this planet under Father Yah Allah and His Son's direction.